So our agenda is, I'm gonna do a very high overview on behalf of your district around Be Well 365 for any of you that may not be aware of it or heard of it. There's a lot of information on your website about it. I'm gonna give you an overview of the Leader in Me, talking about its connection to SEL. I'm going to talk about the measure results assessment, which some of you may be familiar with if you do currently have a child that is in a Leader in Me school. We're going to talk about the curriculum, some family support at home, and some of those what some of those resources actually look like. We're going to then look at SEL for anyone who is not familiar with what SEL is. And some of those major components that we're seeking to support your students to actually develop those skills, those SEL skills that will help them be successful, both now while they're in school as well as later on in life. We'll talk about some upcoming program opportunities around the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families, and we'll have some Q&A at the end. If you do have questions as we go along, specifically as it relates to something that I'm sharing, definitely feel free to come off mute and or put your questions in the chat, and our facilitators will bring that to my attention so we can actually answer those questions. So let's jump in. So for anyone that is not aware, that Montgomery County Public Schools has actually adopted the Be Well 365 framework. And essentially what that involves is it's a framework that was developed by a cross-collaborative group throughout the district to ensure that all students through the curriculum, their programs, and various strategies develop all of the skills that they actually need to be successful. And so it's addressing their social, emotional needs, their physical needs, their psychological needs. And so again, all of these were designed as a part of a framework to help all the children throughout the district to be successful. The six essentials of the Be Well 365 are one, becoming a positive members of the school and the broader community. The area where we come in to really support some of what you're doing is helping students to manage their emotions. Also, how can we actually support students in building their academic and social resilience? Which we've heard a lot of feedback around educators saying how much it's a challenge, and even from some parents to help students actually make that transition from being at home all that time during the pandemic and back into the classroom. Looking to help students identify and accessing support for themselves or for a friend. How students can actually resolve conflict peacefully. And then finally, making positive decisions. So again, more information and the resources available to support some of these things can actually be found on the MCPS website. All right, the Leader in Me. So we are entering our second school year in a partnership with Montgomery County Public Schools. We are rolling out in cohorts to partner with schools throughout the district. So we are entering into our second cohort that will be starting the process or has started the process this school year. And there'll be a final cohort and cohort 3 that will be rolling out and implementing the process next school year. All families, even if your child has not started in the process, can have access to some of the resources and some of the learning through workshops through the Parent Academy, some of which we'll be sharing more about. But again, your school may or may not be in one of the first 2 cohorts and could be in the last cohort. So they may not be rolling out some of what I'm going to actually share with you in your school until next school year. If you are unaware, unsure of if your child's school has actually started yet, and not familiar what the cohorts are, you can actually stay at the end and I'll actually double check and I can actually share that information with you. So what is the Leader in Me? The Leader in Me is a research validated, comprehensive process which is designed to address the social emotional needs and the college and career readiness of all students to develop them as strong and effective and impactful leaders. We are a comprehensive SEL solution. We actually work with students in pre-K all the way to 12th grade. We do actually train your support staff that are in your district, educators, all the staff that will be working with students. And again, we'll also have opportunities where we have district-wide trainings to support families. And then some schools will have the option, if they so choose, to actually have some workshops specifically for parents at their respective schools. The Leader in Me is one of the highest rated CASEL select programs. And I'm gonna share with you a little bit more about CASEL and what that organization is and what they do and why it's so important as it relates to social emotional learning. So first, again, I want to start with an interactive activity. I am going to give you about 30 seconds, and I want you to figure out how many numbers can you find in sequence. These, there are 54 numbers on this screen. So I want you to figure out, starting in a second when I say go, how many numbers you can find in order, starting with the number 1. Begin. Fifteen seconds left. Three, 2, 1. I want you to throw in the chat how many, what were you able to get up to? Share that number in the chat. Sonia said 55. Sonia, there's only 54 numbers. So I see a 9, I see a 6, I see a 12. Then, all right, there's 25 people in here. Give me a couple more responses. I see 12. I think that's the highest number I've seen thus far. Again, no judgment. Oh, wow, Linda got to 22. I wonder if she waited till we started or she got a head start, but that's excellent. If you got all the way up to 22. All right, Linda, I trust you. All right, give me one more. Is there one more that will share their number, what they got up to? All right, I'm gonna share with you in a second a resource that, one, I always wanna test my ability of whether or not I can actually still be an impactful and effective teacher. I'm gonna share with you a resource that I'm pretty confident is gonna guarantee that you have anywhere from a 10 to 20 point increase. So what I've just provided you with is a grid that will show you the numbers of how to find them in order. And so I'm going to give you I'm going to give you less time, and I want to see how many numbers you can now count in order using this grid. Ready, set, go. We're at 15 seconds. I'm gonna give you the 25 and take 5 seconds off, and I still think many of you will get better scores. All right, time. All right, let's see those numbers. How many were you able to count that time? I see 31, 40s. I see a 30, a 32, 33, 26. I see a 7, a 36. Went from 6 to 36. So you all have proved that I still have a little bit of teaching left in me. Come off mute or share in the chat. What was the difference between the first time I asked you, outside of the obvious, what was the difference between the first time and the second time when I asked you to do that?
You gave me instructions.
I gave the same instructions. I said that the instruction was count to 1 to 54.
Visually, you gave me visual instructions to focus on. Before my eyes were just all over the place trying to, like, you know, randomly look and just the different fonts. But once you broke it down and it gave me the ability to think of it in a different way and to, you know, slowly focus, it was just popping out left and right.
Excellent. Thank you, Elizabeth. What Elizabeth shared is that I gave you all a tool in which to help focus on how you could go about achieving the task that I actually asked you all to do. I provided you all with a framework that would make the same task a lot more effective and a lot more efficient. What I just did for you is essentially what we're seeking to do to partner with schools to help them help their students develop their social emotional learning skills by providing them with a framework. And so this framework, if you start and look to the left, is based on what we call a see, do, get model. So what we do is start with schools and we have them take a measure results assessment, the MRA, which if you've started in our process, you should have or will in the future get an email that will have you take a survey that will help you give some feedback to the school on how they are actually performing with your student in the areas of leadership, culture, and academics. And so we're trying to identify what are the results based on this data, where are we now, and what are the results, the measurable results that we actually want to get. And then what we actually focus on with schools is let's actually look at what are your paradigms? What are the paradigms around leadership, potential, change, motivation, and education? What are your paradigms in those particular areas, first and foremost? And then because we believe that what your paradigms are very much will impact what it is that you actually do. A lot of times in life, we'll seek to get a certain result and we'll just do a whole bunch of trial and error. So we'll try one thing to see if it gets us the result we want. We'll try another thing to see if that might get the result. And what we want to do in partnership with our schools is let's look at and challenge your paradigms. Let's look at what do you actually think about what are the results that you're trying to get first and foremost, because what you're thinking may impact what it is that you're actually doing. Because if you keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result, that's the definition of insanity. And so we want to challenge and affirm paradigms that will help direct and drive schools to do what we will support them in these particular areas to try to get the measurable results that they actually want. for their entire school, but specifically for their students on each grade level and in every single classroom. So again, what we're doing with each school is for all students, 4th grade and above, all of the staff that work in that building, and as for as many parents and caregivers as possible, to take that survey to, again, to identify where are we as a school in these particular areas of leadership, culture, and academics, and how can we actually get better? So it's really important for you all to actually participate in that survey, because we're trying to get a holistic perspective on where is that school at this particular time, and how can they set some growth targets, and how can they celebrate where they're actually doing really well, and what are the areas where they have some potential growth. And so that's where we start with schools in our process, is establishing a baseline with using this particular data, and then identifying targets for moving forward. In a nutshell, what the Leader in Me process seeks to do is we will work with schools to provide some initial upfront training. We will train them first and foremost in the 7 habits before they actually seek to try to teach students what those principles and concepts and highly effective practices are. Because as you'll see in a second, that this is very much something that you're not doing anything to students. We really want you as the adults, both families as well as the educators in the building, is to engage, to live these principles, to actually be in partnership, to actually work with students, to have a community both inside and outside of the school that is actually going to help them develop those skills that they need to be successful. So we'll start with training the staff. We'll also do some training of families. What each and every school will also have is a coach that will actually help them identify those measurable targets and actually support them on actually improving in those areas where they have some gaps. What we're also looking to do is not totally revamp whatever a school is currently doing. We'll look at whatever the systems and structures that are currently in place. We'll look at other reform models, say, for example, restorative justice, and look at where the alignment is to what the school is already doing and to what the principles are of the Leader in Me process. What we will do with each and every school is make any necessary modifications that need to take place to make sure that each and every school has a customized implementation plan that makes the most sense for that school. So we'll be working with different schools that obviously have different strengths, different challenges, but we're going to use this same process, and we're going to align it to make sure that the needs in that specific school are actually being effectively addressed. As I mentioned, what we speak to with each and every staff member that we train in our process, that the first Leader in Me that we talk about is them. This is, as I started the presentation, is not merely something that we're attempting to seek to do to students, but something that we really want to have the adults in the building to also develop their social emotional learning skills as well. And so we start with each individual. We'll train the staff. The staff will then in turn take their students through our curriculum. And then we also want them to actually engage with you all with what it is that they've actually been learning in school. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But what we'll also have opportunities is for them to actually invite the community into the building, families, as well as other members and stakeholders in the community, to actually learn about what it is they are actually doing within their building to develop their social emotional learning skills, their leadership capacities, and then also encourage them to also demonstrate those leadership capacities outside of school as well. What we'll be sharing with all of the educators that go through our process is that we're seeking to align Be Well 365, as well as the leadership portrait of a graduate that your district has with our student leadership portrait, which represents 16 social emotional leadership competencies that we want to help them to apply while they're currently students, to internalize those skills, to one, help them be effective while they're currently matriculating throughout the school district, but also provide them with the foundational skills that are going to help them to be life ready. That again aligns with the Be Well 365 process, where we're really trying to help develop these 16 core competencies within students to help them to truly be effective. If you take a close look, the inner ring, it seeks to develop both the personal and interpersonal competencies that are truly going to be foundational for them to be successful in life. And then what you'll see in the outer ring are those leadership abilities that first and foremost, you have to develop self-mastery and leadership of self. But once you've actually done that, how can they then learn those skills that will actually help them be able to demonstrate leadership towards others as well? Again, some of that the skills that we're seeking to actually develop by teaching the 7 habits. For anyone for those of you who may not be aware of what the habits are, so habit 1 aligns very well to the skill set that we're trying to develop in terms of self-regulation. So habit 1 is really speaking to they are in charge of them, in charge of their own behavior. And even of their own learning. And so we want to develop that mindset as well as that skill set there. Habit 2 is beginning with the end in mind. So really looking at helping them develop a vision and for setting goals. Habit 3, putting first thing first. We really want to develop the valuable, important skill of time management. And again, habits 1, 2, and 3 in our training is called the private victory, where it's critically important that they actually develop mastery of self first and foremost. Habit 4, relationship building, think win-win, which is about a mindset, is how can I get what I want? How can you get what you want? So we can both win as a part of the process. And again, that importance of developing relationships. Habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. We have lessons that help develop the importance and the value of empathy towards others, as well as effective communication, of seeking to understand other people's perspective. Habit 6, synergize, which promotes the impact and the power of working together. Tremendously helpful, both again, inside the classroom as well as outside the classroom, and in a variety of extracurricular activities, as well as when they actually matriculate and graduate, the ways in which is very, very impactful and powerful to work together with others. And habit 7, sharpen the saw. This habit is critically important because it's about creating balance. There are a lot of distractions that we all face, both students as well as adults, but it's important to promote and to encourage students to actually create some balance in all aspects of their lives. What are the ways in which they are taking care of themselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and socially? And so it's critically important that when you're not practicing habit 7, it's very difficult to effectively and consistently do habits 1 through 6. All right, for anyone who is not familiar with CASEL or with social emotional learning, but social emotional learning, otherwise referred to as SEL, is the process through which children and adults understand and manage their emotions, that seek and set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. This is a definition that is widely held across education field, and it is largely promoted by an association, an organization called CASEL, which is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. They are an association who seeks to evaluate social emotional programs and score them on their impact and their effectiveness in a variety of different categories. Their highest rating is CASEL Select, which our model is rated as such, K through 8 currently. And in high school, we're currently going through that evaluation process to seek that distinction as well. But again, this is an independent organization that one evaluates, but then also provides a lot of resources and information about social and emotional learning. So as I have shared in terms of the student leadership portrait on the right, to the left, you'll see the 5 core competencies of social emotional learning: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. And so I want to take a second now where I want you all to briefly, again, there's a lot of information in literature, again, on the CASEL. If you go to their website, that will give you a lot of a deep dive around some of this information. But I wanted to quickly play Name That CASEL Competency. So in a second, I'm going to give you the description of the CASEL competency, and I want you to throw in the chat which competency that you actually think that is describing. All right, so let's go. Let's see how you do. Name that CASEL competency. The ability to understand one's own emotions, thoughts, values, and how they influence behavior across contexts. This includes capacities to recognize one's strengths, limitations, with a well-grounded sense of confidence and purpose. Throw it in the chat. Which CASEL competency do you think that is? Are you all still there? I don't see anybody put anything in the chat. I see 1, self-awareness. Any other responses? All right, the correct answer is self-awareness. That is correct for those of you who were brave enough to put that response in the chat. All right, number 2. The abilities to make caring, constructive choices about personal behavior and social interactions across diverse situations. This includes the capacities to consider ethical standards and safety concerns and to evaluate the benefits and consequences of various actions for personal, social, and collective well-being. Which CASEL competency would you say that is? So the answer is responsible decision-making. So I saw a couple of other responses in there where it does touch on some things that may be for social awareness, but this one definitely deals with responsible decision-making. The key point being those benefits and consequences and the capacity to consider those things based on ethical standards. So responsible decision-making for that one. Next one, the ability to manage one's emotions, thoughts, and behaviors effectively in different situations to achieve goals and aspirations. This includes the capacities to delay gratification, manage stress, and feel motivation and agency to accomplish personal and collective goals. Are you all answering there in the chat? This is a tricky one for some. It's actually social awareness. I see a couple of people, a lot of people saw, I think put in self-management for that. And we'll see in the next two responses if you can see the difference in the connections between how this one would be social awareness and one of the other ones would actually be self-management. The next one, the abilities to establish and maintain a healthy and supportive relationships and to effectively navigate settings with diverse individuals and groups. This includes the capacity to communicate clearly, listen actively, cooperate, work collaboratively to problem solve, and negotiate conflict constructively. Navigate settings with different social and cultural demands and opportunities, provide leadership, and seek or offer help when needed. What would you say is that one? All right, put those answers in the chat. That one was relationship skills. All right, last one. I'm sorry, did we do this? I don't think we did this one. The ability to manage one's emotions through thoughts and behaviors effectively in different situations to achieve goals and aspirations. This includes the capacity to delay gratification, manage stress, and feel motivation and agency to accomplish personal and collective goals.
We don't see your screen.
Sorry about that. Are you all seeing it now?
Yes.
I'll throw those answers in the chat. Which one do you think this one is?
I thought we did this one.
This one is self-management. I think people thought this one was self-management before, but this was a slightly different definition. But this one is self-management. Last one. The abilities to establish and maintain healthy and supportive relationships and to effectively navigate settings with diverse individuals and groups. This includes, this was the one that we actually did, and I apologize. And I think some of you put the right answer in there, but this one is the one I read. And which one was this? And I see your hand, Annie, so I'll come to you in a second. So you recall, this one is, and I apologize, I went back and forth on it. This one is relationship skills. So going back to, again, the student leadership portrait, as you can see, again, we're trying to align and develop these particular areas through the use of the curriculum to develop those CASEL core competency skills that we actually went through and developed. And so that is the alignment that we're actually seeking to do and create with what it is that we're actually doing in the classroom, and then some of the opportunities that we're going to seek to engage you all as families as well to support what it is that your child is actually doing at home. I want to pause there for a second. You said, Annie, there was a question?
No.
Okay. So now the curriculum in terms of what your child is actually experiencing within school now. So there is a digital K-8 curriculum, which is facilitated by the teacher that has a supportive companion guide. That is not the entire curriculum, but it has a space where students can actually do exercises that are facilitated as a part of the classroom experience. There are 5 units that will have various categories that I'll share with you in a second, that will have multiple modules, so 35 total modules, and each module has 4 lessons. So in each school, they're supposed to be doing 45 minutes minimum of social emotional learning. So a school may choose to do as few as 2 or as many 4 lessons in a given week. And so again, some schools will implement a little bit differently based on how their master schedule is for their respective schools. But this is the content that is available each and every school in terms of supporting the implementation of achieving the goals of that student leadership portrait and the 5 CASEL core competencies. So again, these are the different areas in terms of the units that will repeat each and every year, but the modules and the lessons would actually be different. So we're really trying to set a foundation during the first 8 days of introducing students to the concepts that they're going to be learning about. They'll discuss and apply things like learning leadership, learning to lead self, as I mentioned before, developing that self-mastery, learning to lead others, and then the whole person. And so again, these are the units that they'll actually be going through. This is the structure. They are what we describe as the empowered learning approach, the 3 I's. And so there will be 3 segments of each lesson. They're very short in nature, where we're seeking to, 1, ignite curiosity. So we're trying to get them engaged, excited, intrigued by what it is that they're going to learn. Then they're going to investigate. So they're going to have opportunities to investigate some practical ways in which does this particular lesson that they're learning, how does it work, the whys and the hows. And then finally, they're going to have an opportunity to really invite connections. So how can they build on connections to things, knowledge that they already have, experiences that they've actually been through, or things that they might be experiencing, whether that be inside or outside the classroom, or maybe some extracurricular activity that they might be engaged or a part of. This is an example of, again, some of the slides of how the teacher may be guiding the curriculum, and then the student companion components that actually will go along with that. What you see to the right is families would have access to emotion cards. So that's one of the engaging at home activities that families can actually do, is to actually walk through the emotion cards with their children and discuss the different emotion cards that we have to actually complement some of their learning. They will also be going through just in some grade levels around self-regulation, breathing, and exercising activities as well. And so those, again, are some examples of what that actually looks like in terms of the guides, as well as some of the resources that will be available to them. Again, K-2, again, examples of those emotion cards. 3-5, again, looking at different scenarios and how to apply their learning. So again, they're gonna have the same core modules, but as they progress in grade level, they'll actually have different ways in how they develop and go deeper into developing those different skill sets that I discussed. For those of you who have high school students, there are actually 4 courses. One is the 7 Habits, which focuses on a lot of principles that we just described in developing a lot of those skills. And again, that's self-mastery as well as leading others. They have a course on career readiness. There's a course on college readiness. And then there's a course on leadership readiness. And so these are just some of the examples of some of the things that they would actually do in those respective courses. So as for us, when we talk about families, we believe, that family is the most important organization. And we believe that each family is unique. They come in all sizes and shapes. And the best person to define family is you. And so we operate in our family engagement to be very inclusive in helping families to truly define what that actually means for them. And then we provide resources and activities that schools can actually share with families to actually reinforce some of the concepts that I've actually been sharing with you today. One of the ones that I can say that has been really impactful for me that I've actually tried at home with my son is just this questionnaire that, how well do you know me? And so there's another one. So there's one where the student will ask you as a caregiver, how well do you know them as a student or child? And there's one where for the parents, where they give the questions to the students and you ask questions, right? Things that might be, what is your favorite color? What is your favorite thing to do with me? What is your favorite food? So again, these are different ways in which we're seeking to help build connections at home. One of the other activities of this reflection tool, it looks at be proactive, and it has activities as a family, how you can answer some of these questions as a family. How are we being proactive, or how are we not? Or to the bottom left, that daily renewal tracker, focusing on habit 7. What are the different things that they do to actually practice balance in their lives? And then to that top left, 7 Habits Bingo is an activity that schools will often do, where families have to do the various activities to actually spell bingo and bring that back to the school. And sometimes they make it competitive by class, grade level, or individual prizes for students or for all those various levels. So there are a variety of different resources that schools have at their disposals to truly engage you all as families. One of the things that we've also asked the Parent Academy, if there is interest, is to actually do some of these activities as a part of these workshops to actually engage families around doing some of these things and actually sharing and talking about some of their their experiences to share with other families. One of the things that we did last school year, and we got a really good response, that we did a 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families workshop. And so we did that virtually, and we do it in 2 parts, 2 90-minute sessions. We'll be offering that again this fall, November 15th and 16th. We will have 2 separate Zoom rooms where we will be offering it in English as well as Spanish. We will also be working with schools who also want to do a 7 Habits workshop at their school in person as well. So those are some different opportunities that we have that are upcoming. We also have an opportunity for families who would like to share their experiences. If they sign up to go through one of the workshops and they're willing to share their experiences, that we would videotape your family and the experiences that they're having with the 7 Habits, to then actually share those experiences so other families can actually see how where your family kind of started, the value of different things that you all have actually been doing to celebrate that and share your experiences. So we would love to get families who might be interested in that to let me know, and we would love to get you involved in sharing in what those experiences are. And so again, you would need to go through one of the workshops that we're going to be having this fall to be able to share in that respective experience.